Hey, what's up guys, Middle571 here, and today I'm going to talk about the KRK KNS 8400. Bear with me a little bit, I think I've got a little bit of a throat coughing issue, but we'll get through this. Alright, so what are we looking at here? We're looking at a professional studio monitor closed back headphone. Almost direct competition, you could say, to the likes of the M50X, the K271 I'm wearing, and other closed-back monitors. SRH 440 also comes to mind. The price point and the target market for this is very similar. This is really a headphone that they tout it as a professional reference headphone. It's really more of a tracking headphone, and maybe you could maybe use it as a reference. I'll explain a little bit more when we get to the sound, but all in all, I think it's a really good tracking headphone, and I'll explain why. So first of all, the hardware as usual. Build quality. Overall, it honestly doesn't feel very substantial. This thing weighs very little. It's quite light. And that's probably because it really doesn't, there's not much, to it. It's kind of a low profile, just thin, but it still feels relatively strong, because it's got, the metal headband. I mean, that's a must. You can't have a good, well-built headphone without some kind of metal headband. So it's got that. The hinges don't creak or anything, which you'd be surprised. You can find that in some more expensive stuff than this, quite a bit more. And it's even got these nice little indicators, blue for left, red for right. How nice is that? And it's only on this side, which is the side that faces you when you put the headphone on. So I wish left and right indicators were that good on every headphone. It's shocking how it gets left out sometimes. So the folding is not as good as an Audio-Technica. It only folds like this, basically. That's it. You can fold them flat, and for one of the cups, the one that doesn't have a cable coming out of it, I'll show you the cables in a minute. You can do this to flip it around. So some DJs apparently do this. So you have that option there. And only one of the ear cups does that. The other one doesn't do that because, well, the cable would kind of hit things, I guess. Actually, you know what? They probably could have designed it so that went around further. Not entirely sure why they didn't. I guess they could have gotten away with that. Anyway, so that's the folding. It doesn't fold anywhere up or in here. It just folds flat. That's all. Ear pads are actually really comfortable. They're made of memory foam. They might get a little hot over time, but I found that they're like just the right size, and part of that is due to the fact that they are oval shaped instead of circular, and so quite efficient use of space and pretty darn comfortable. It's hard to find headphones that are this comfortable, Audio-Technicas, and this cheap at the same time. It's really not bad, and it isolates really well. Like, the isolation on this thing is almost as good as the 280 Pro. It's really up there. It's pretty impressive for the price range. It's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive, period, actually. So, what cables does this come with? At the risk of boring you, so the cable it actually comes with is this 10-foot cable. It really isn't the best cable in the world. It's alright, but it really tends to hold its shape a little too much, and I'm not a fan of cables that do that, so that was a little bit annoying. But thankfully the jack on the end is strong, and there's a 3.5mm adapter, so all the usual stuff is there. I also have the optional 3-foot cable, and well, this is you can take this off of here as well. That doesn't come with the cable, just a detail. And then the quelled cable. Those are both optional. You can buy them separately. I have them here on hand. And the other thing this comes with is a simple little fabric case. It's because you can't fold these up all the way. You can kind of just slide them in there and collapse the side, and that's about it. So not the most portable in the world, but not bad. Still pretty functional. All right. And as I said, comfort is quite good. So let's move on to the sound. All right. These are actually, they're great, and then there are some shortcomings to them at the same time. It's interesting. So the bass on these is probably the most colored part of it. The bass is interesting in that it actually does extend really well. But the problem is that there is a bump, and it's quite a prominent bump. If you judge by Tiles graphs, it's somewhere between maybe 5 and 8 decibels, which is quite up there, but it's centered around maybe 150 hertz. So you're looking at a mid bass through upper bass, and sometimes a little bit more, maybe a little bit over 200 hertz as well. So you've got this kind of, it's not really, it's punchy, but it's also kind of woolly and a little bit warm at the same time. Actually quite warm. So you've got this big bump in the mid bass through the upper bass, and it's very noticeable. So that's one of the reasons why I really wouldn't say this is a reference headphone. I think that's a little bit too much coloration, in my opinion. It's fun to listen to, don't get me wrong. It's not out of this world bass, it's not Beats bass, but it's not like something that I would consider incredibly neutral either. But it's worth noting. It's interesting that you actually, the sub bass, like through all the way up till maybe 80 hertz or 100 hertz, is very neutral. It actually sounds about the right level, but as soon as you start pushing energy into the mid bass and the upper bass, it just takes off, and like the sub bass becomes harder to hear. It's strange, but that's exactly what these sound like. Judging by the graph that shows isolation that Tile has, actually might be caused by the pads, because the pads have a bump and it's pretty much the same region that the bass boost is on. And so it might have something to do with the pads. I have not tested taking these memory foam pads off. The model below this, the KNS 6400, does not have memory foam pads, slightly different pads, and they might help it. I don't know. I haven't tried that though. It might sound completely different, who knows. Alright, so the mid-range is close to flat, but it still manages to be scooped a bit. At least it sounds scooped in the low mids, maybe like 500 hertz. There's a dip there, and there's a slight bump in the upper mid range as well. They're definitely slightly harsh. The good thing is that the mids are not slow enough to become very grainy or grating or harsh. They're forward enough for you not to mix them in properly, but they're also not laid back enough to be, a smooth sounding mid-range either. So it's definitely got a little bit of a V shape. If you can imagine a V shape going from the mid bass and upper bass into the low mid's got a dip, and then a slight bump in the upper mid range. And that's what these are going to give you. The treble, however, is the most uncolored part of the spectrum. Very flat, very fast, and extends quite well. You get a lot of detail up top when the recording calls for it. Cymbals and the china from drums just sound real crisp, real clean. So pretty good. Soundstage still sounds like a closed headphone. It's not amazing, but it's got a bit of a soundstage. You've got some directionality. It just doesn't go like super wide, and the separation is not as separate. It still feels a little bit cramped, but better than average, I would say, for sure, for a closed headphone. And that's saying something for a product that floats in the $120 price range. That's quite good. So all in all, it really ticks a lot of boxes, but I don't think I'd use it as a reference headphone, and that's the upshot that I have about this guy. So do I recommend it? Yeah, I would recommend it, and actually it's a pretty interesting alternative to the M50X for a cheaper price. That's what I'd say this guy is. Perhaps slightly more colored, maybe in a way you'd like, maybe not. Perhaps a better value, though, and isolation is a little bit better here, and I feel comfort is definitely better here. I don't know. I don't like the M40X, M50X ear cups. They were never comfortable for me, and a lot of other people. That's why people replace them often with other ear pads. But these guys, I feel like you could wear for a while. You could also use these in an office. Very, very good for blocking out sound of your coworkers, and also enjoying your music more as a result, and also not leaking out too much sound so that you don't bother people. So that's the KNS 8400. Pretty solid product. Not a spectacular product, but a good value absolutely. Thanks, guys, and stay tuned for more reviews coming. Hopefully, soon enough, my voice will return to normal, and maybe the next review will sound a little bit better. Alright, guys, take care.